There you go.
Black, no sugar, right?
Right. And ta-da!
But where's my oatcake?
Well, they were all out, so I got this instead. Besides, what is a simple little oatcake compared with a big, beautiful chocolate cake with icing?
But I was looking forward to my little oatcake all day.
Oh. Well, maybe I could sprinkle some oats on it for you.
Yum, 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 yum.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of One Chef One Critic. I'm Karl Wells, food critic for The Telegram.
And I'm Chef Steve Watson of Central Dairies.
Well, Steve, since we do have this big, beautiful chocolate cake here, perhaps you can give our viewers a cake tip.
Absolutely, Karl. If you're having a dinner party at home or something like that, and you've got all this cake left over and you put it in the fridge, the next time you come to get it, it could be all dry on the inside and crusted and not as flavorful as before, so to speak. So what I normally do, I'll get 2 slices of white bread and just pop it in there like that, and that's going to keep it all nice and moist for the next time you want to eat
That's
it.
a very good tip. Mind you, in this house, I cannot imagine having this much cake.
I can agree.
I think there would only be crumbs on the
Yes,
tray.
yes.
Well, we're excited today because we have a special guest, the Mayor of St. John's. Dennis O'Keefe is with us, His Worship Dennis O'Keefe, and I hope, Steve, we're preparing a meal befitting of the Mayor's high station.
Indeed we are, Karl. We're going to be making a beautiful loin of lamb in puff pastry, actually a lamb Wellington for him.
Oh, I think that will pass muster nicely. And also on the program today, we have Steve's second best friend, Gary Corcoran.
Second best?
Yes, Steve, and careful, you're deviating from the script. Yes, Steve's second best friend, Gary Corcoran, will be here to prepare a scallop appetizer. Yes, we all know who Steve's best friend is, don't we? Back after this. For a complete listing of One Chef One Critic recipes, wine lists, and more, check out our website. Let us know what you think of the show at 757-9600. Well, now, here is a sight that warms the cockles of my heart. We have the humble town crier of Mount Pearl preparing a meal for the Lord High Mayor of the city of St. John's. Mayor Dennis O'Keefe.
I wasn't expecting that.
Isn't that wonderful?
Welcome to our little show of culinary and other delights.
The only addition would be Mayor Randy Sims.
It would be indeed,
I hope he gets the message, Steve.
So we've taken your high office into consideration, and we have come up with a beautiful menu for you today, and I hope it meets with your approval.
I am sure
Stephen?
it will, see?
Absolutely. What we have here, Dennis, I've got a beautiful loin of lamb, and I've marinated that overnight with some herbs and thyme and things like that, and a little bit of rosemary. We're going to sear that quickly, and we're going to be wrapping that in puff pastry, so it's going to be a lamb Wellington. And Karl's going to saute a few vegetables there, so
Yes.
we'll get this started. I'll put some oil in the pan, and I'm going to get you to quickly sear it on either side. So
We should be careful that we don't get blowback here.
blow back.
Okay.
Yeah. So there, and then there's some tongs, and then we'll just pop it in there, backwards and forwards. So, okay, just like at home. There you go.
I
Push, push.
I do this at home every day.
There, yeah.
My wife is delighted.
Do it very quickly, and then we'll just turn it over right away, almost. You can turn it over now, Dennis, and then that'll be it.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
all. That's all I need to do to quickly sear it. Okay. Perfect.
Quick sear. Okay.
Quick sear. Yep. Very good.
Okay.
So I'll remove that plate from you, and then we go.
And I have to do these vegetables, so a little bit of butter.
I'll pop this into the centre for you, Dennis,
Okay.
like so. And I'm going to get you to mix some pâté in there. Give you the tongs. I will reach up. Sorry, I'll just reach over and I'll remove that from the stove. And I'm going to get you to mix the pâté with the wooden spoon, with the breadcrumbs. That'll be great. That's going to be for our dressing in the centre.
So you want me just to...
Just mix it in. Just mix it in while Karl has a little chat with you.
So, Your Worship, I have to ask you this first of all. What part of town did you grow up in?
I grew up on Springdale Street, 94 Springdale Street, and my father sold that property around 1960 when I was 16 and moved to the Merchant Road.
Oh, I see.
And latterly, around 1970, we moved to James Lane, Fitzgibbon and James Lane. But my actual upbringing,
Yeah.
downtown, Springdale Street on the Merchant Road.
And that seems quite proper for a mayor
Yeah.
to have grown up in the heart of his city.
And that literally was the downtown.
Yeah.
Was the city. I mean, that was a time before
Well, of course it was, yeah.
Elizabeth Avenue
Yeah.
or Churchill
That's
Park.
right.
And it was a great neighborhood. You
Yeah.
had children.
Yeah.
You made your own fun. You played street hockey. You climbed fences. You climbed trees. You got out all day and ran around
That's
the
right.
neighborhood. No television.
No. Did you grow up with a big family, in a big family?
I did. I have one sister and 4 brothers. So we ranged, my brother who died, my older brother 5 years ago, Walter, and if he was alive now, he'd be 74 this year. And we go right down to the youngest, who would be about 60 now.
Yeah. You went to St. Bon's.
Went to St. Bon's.
I'm just going to put a little bit of mustard in
Yeah,
there.
from grade
That's good.
grade 1, there was no kindergarten, right up to grade 12. And that was the old grade 12. Finished grade 12 in 1962, Steve.
Is that right? My
Yeah,
goodness.
and that was the last grade 12 at St. Bon's. And that was the year that Brother Rice opened.
Yeah. Did you have a good experience at St. Bon's?
Terrific. I had 12 wonderful years. Boyle Trophy years.
Oh, my
Yeah,
goodness.
the all
Yes.
hockey wars with
Yes.
Prince of Wales and
Yeah.
and the guards and
Yeah.
but it was a great time. You know, you didn't have the technology that we have today
today,
in our
no, no,
homes
no.
and everything else. But
Was there any student politics on the go at that time?
Now. Thank you very much.
Did you get involved in any student politics?
yeah, I did on the student council.
Oh, yeah.
In particular in grade 11 and grade 12, and that was something new. That was a way of drawing students at the time into taking responsibility for activities within the school. So I ended up in grade 12. I think I was on the executive of the student council.
Yeah. So when you were growing up in St. John's back in the 50s,
Yep.
it was a very, you alluded to this a moment ago, I mean, it was a very different city. What are some of the most remarkable things that have happened over the following decades that have kind of stood out with you?
Well, even the expansion, Steve, and the growth that the city has taken on over the years, and the boundaries moving out and out. I think of relatives of mine who bought a house in 1958, I believe it was, in Gooseberry Lane, and at that time, that was outside the city limits, and today it's almost in the middle of the city.
Yes, that's right.
So,
Yeah.
you know, the city has expanded and grown so much. The only shopping area in the city in the 1950s really was Water Street.
Water Street,
and that's where
indeed,
all the merchants were, as you know. Beyond that, there was no Elizabeth Avenue or
Yeah.
Torbay Road developments or Stavanger Drives, or even the Avalon Mall came much later.
Yeah.
And now we're gone all the way out to Galway.
That's right.
The shops at Galway,
Yes.
and, over the next number of years.
We may end up in London and Paris.
We certainly are going to see some changes in the way we govern ourselves in the next 15 to 20 years, and the city will change equally dramatically, and even the technology we have available to us today compared to the technology I grew up and the technology I taught in when I started teaching in the mid-1960s.
Yeah. Speaking of education, you did become a teacher. You're a Mon alumnus, and you received a master's degree in history. Did you teach history for all of your teaching career, which was over 30 years?
30 years. I taught history at Brother Rice and St. Pat's, and for 25 years at Beaconsfield High School, which is the long period of time just around the corner here. I taught history. I taught global issues.
Yeah.
I taught religion, Canadian law, and democracy alternatively.
Yeah.
Had a ball.
I wonder
Had a
what
great
you'd be
time.
telling the kids today about Donald Trump.
You know, one of the things I remember telling high school kids in the late 80s was that one of these days we would actually see a cashless society. And little did I realize
pretty much happened.
that's pretty well.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
realize
yeah.
what happened so
Almost
quickly.
cash today is
I
a
knew
thing
it
of the
would
past,
happen.
yeah.
And the other thing I remember saying to high school kids at the time, or discussing with them, was that in the 21st century, the crisis would be more over water than oil.
Yeah, yeah.
Having
that's-
water. And
That's
that's
about to
happening.
happen.
That's
Yeah,
about
yeah,
to
yeah,
happen.
Yeah, for sure. Any highlights from your years teaching high school?
Gee, a lot of highlights. I think the widest highlight I experienced is the number of young people that I impacted
Yeah.
on their lives.
And-
Because I
To this day, I
to
bet they
this
come
day.
back to you.
Yeah, and I run into them in every walk of life.
Yeah.
And some of them now are in their late 60s.
Yeah.
And every now and again, you'll get the experience where somebody will stop you and say, you know, you taught me back in 1973, and my life changed because of something that happened. And normally, that people, you don't hear that ever. And the only time you might surreally experience it would be if you were in a coffin in a funeral
Oh,
home,
yeah.
and people look down and say, "Boy, he was a good fella. He really helped me out." But it's too late then.
Yeah.
So every now and
Yeah.
again, people will pass on
right,
that
yeah.
remark, you know, that
Yeah.
you impacted on my life. And to me, that was the best thing about teaching, the fact that I impacted on the lives
A lot of people.
Yeah.
of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they impacted on my life too. I mean,
Yeah.
it works both ways.
Wonderful. Now, I think you need to get something out
Absolutely,
of
I'll quickly
So-
take it out
Yeah,
of the
come
oven.
over here.
And I know you're quickly
I'm
going
going
to
to
go
let you bask in the glory of this
Absolutely.
lamb Wellington while I
Aha.
get some
There we go,
wine.
that's
Okay.
the two
Yeah,
already
sounds
done
good.
there. And what I did, Dennis, as you saw, I wrapped the pate and I wrapped the lamb in there in the puff pastry, and then just nicely decorated with puff pastry.
You and I make a great team.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And we have Karl along in the meantime.
Yeah. But he'll critique it somewhere along the line, like he normally does.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Karl.
Well, we have some dish going up there. It's officially called lamb en croûte, but I'm calling it lamb Wellington because it reminds me so much of beef Wellington.
With the crust and the inside.
and a puff pastry on the outside. And so I imagine this is going to need a wine that's got some, heft to it.
Exactly, yeah, because of course you've got the crust, which is heavy in its own way. You've got the lamb, which is meaty, of course, and then there's herbs and beautiful things in there as well. I think there's some Dijon in that, which is gorgeous.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
So we've got some really nice pairings here. I've got Spain and South Africa. So I have a Tempranillo from a little village in the highlands close to the Duero River of Spain, in the northern, sort of north-central part of Spain. It's got beautiful, bright acidity. It's aged for 6 months in oak, so it's got some toastiness, which is going to go really nicely with the crust. But beautiful wine from a small house. This one is 18. Then I have 2 from Sutherland, both from Elgin origin, which is in Stellenbosch region, very close to the Atlantic, so beautiful, fruit, about 9 kilometers. So beautiful fruit set, but of course we have the heat in South Africa that we have to deal with as well. I have a Syrah and I have a Cabernet Petit Verdot, which is of course the blends you see in Bordeaux.
And Petit Verdot, is that a wine that's common, or a grape that's common?
It's usually used in small amounts in Bordeaux blends. You very seldom see it as a single varietal, but it adds structure, and in this case it adds just a little bit of greenness, which is going to go really nicely with the herbaceousness of the dish.
Good point,
And
yeah.
the Syrah is going to add some spice, which I think is going to go really nice as well.
Okay, so $18 for the Spanish,
And these are both 23.
$23 for the South Africans. Okay, I'm going to go with the wine which has the Petit Verdot. I liked what you had to say about the greenness and the herbaceousness.
Yeah.
So we'll check it out. Thank you.
Cheers.
Now we'll just nicely cut it into our lamb Wellington. like so. 1, 2, 3 on the bias, so in nice portions. Then we'll just quickly pop it onto our plate like so. Just fan it out, just a touch, like that. And then we'll put some of our sauce around the side, which has been made from our lamb bones. Let that seep through. And now, let's go and join His Worship and Karl in the dining room and see what they think.
There we go.
Perfect.
I think that'll go nicely with
That
this
will.
lamb Wellington. Now let's have a little taste. And boy, it looks good. I like that pastry.
It looks very good, doesn't it? Yeah.
So that's a puff pastry.
It's a puff pastry, it is, Karl, yeah.
Wonderful.
We did a wonderful job.
Absolutely.
That is really, really beautiful. Oh my.
When I
things
told
to
them
have.
at City Hall yesterday I was coming here to have a meal, and they said, "But do you think you could bring one back for us?" I said, "I will ask."
I was going to ask you. We've been reminiscing today about St. John's, and I know that in your lifetime and mine, we've seen quite a few mayors going back, I guess, to, well, in your case, back to Carnell and Mayor Harry Muse and
Muse
Bill
would
Adams.
be my first.
Okay.
That I can recall.
Okay, yeah. Harry Muse, Bill Adams, and all of the rest of them.
Yeah.
Do you look when you knew you were going to become mayor of the city of St. John's? Did you look to them in a sense for some kind of inspiration?
I look to them as people who did what they could do to bring the city along and in a positive way, and to encourage development. And I assumed, and I think they did, have a vision. And the vision was to do whatever they could possibly do to see the city grow and grow properly. And it just seemed that, in particular with Mayor Muse, my memory of Mayor Muse is that I was a youngster, he was an elderly man to me, but it just seemed that he was the mayor forever. It just seems that so long, and it wasn't.
You
when
can see him
look
still
back
there
at it.
now, yeah.
Yeah. He was a very gentle guy, an avuncular sort of man. He was like Uncle Harry.
Yeah, the change, I think, in terms of personalities of mayors came after Mayor Muse. Then you got into a different generation.
That's right.
So when you got into Mayor Adams and Mayor Wyatt and Mayor Murphy, they were of the 20th century in the sense of the way they articulated themselves and the image
more
that they had.
administrators, I guess. Well, certainly Bill Adams seemed to be more of an administrator.
Yeah, and Mayor Muse seemed to be a father of the city, more so than an administrator of the city.
Exactly, yeah. Well, it's been wonderful having our current mayor on the program. Thank you very much, Mayor Dennis O'Keefe.
Thank you.
And,
it's been terrific.
Here's to you and a bright future for all of us. And we will be back right after this message with Steve's second best friend, Gary Corcoran. Stay tuned. Well, our next guest is a manager with RBC Dominion Securities. Now you're probably saying, well, what's he doing on a cooking show? Actually, he's a passionate guy, passionate about food and cooking. He loves it. And he's actually a very, very good cook. I've tasted his cuisine. He does, for example, things like fundraisers for charity where he'll cook a 5-6 course meal, and he's absolutely excellent. Now, Steve Watson would tell you that he's taught Gary Corcoran literally everything he knows about cooking. Sure. But the fact of the matter is, you see, I have taught Steve Watson everything he knows about cooking. So really, I'm the one who's taught Gary Corcoran. Right?
I didn't know.
And you didn't realize I'm your mentor.
I didn't realize.
Meet your mentor, Gary.
Thank you, Karl.
Okay. Now,
Absolutely, Gary. Now, I know we've prepared many meals together. What are we going to be making today?
So today we're going to make sea scallops. We're going to pan sear the sea scallops, and we're going to serve them on something a little bit different. I've got some split peas, or the old-fashioned Newfoundland peas pudding.
Oh, nice.
So that'll form the base of the plate. I've also I like to mix scallops and meat together. So today we're using some ham hocks. So the dish is the ham hocks and peas are cooked together. It's into a puree.
Yeah.
That'll
Perfect.
start the base. Sear the scallops in a hot pan with just a little bit of salt and pepper there.
Okay, we'll get them on right away, and
we're going to get up to frying speed.
then you can present the plate, I guess.
So I guess if bacon goes with scallops, ham hocks would go as well. Same flavors, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my thought was that most people are not really going to find ham hocks because I cured them myself. So what you can find in the supermarket are riblets.
Oh, yeah.
So basically they'll serve the exact same purpose.
Exactly, yeah.
Very good. So we've got a nice sear going on there, a little bit of olive oil in the pan, and we'll crystallize them. Nice golden.
Put the last one in as well.
Absolutely. So we're going to dress the plate now?
Sure. So we're going to start, the base of the plate then would be this, and we've just put it in a presentation dish.
It looks very creamy.
It is.
It looks a lot creamier than, say, my peas pudding would be.
Well, I've mixed in other ingredients. So there's about 2 tablespoons of butter, and there's about 1/4 cup of chicken stock.
Oh,
So that it sort of gives
lots
you
of
some
big flavor boost, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So just a little spread of
nice.
of the peas like this, and it's nice to have it in a little bit of a boat shaped, so that when we lay the scallops down, finish them with the brown butter.
Yeah.
The butter will actually stay within.
Trough for the butter.
Exactly. That's exactly
Yeah.
right. So it takes about 3 minutes to cook the scallops on one side, and then maybe another minute or so on the second side. You never really want to overcook them, so be careful, Mr. Watson.
I will do that. Now, because of time, Gary, I am going to flip them over.
Sure.
Okay, and then we'll dress the plate. So a little bit more seasoning on there. That's good.
I like scallops fairly rare anyway.
Absolutely.
But if you can get sort of local fresh scallops, when I can, I'll get them from Placentia Bay.
Yeah.
Beautiful big scallops.
Beautiful, yeah. For those who may be interested in an ocean scallop, I think there's about 111 calories in an average-sized scallop.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so you can really make a meal out of 3 or 4 of them.
So could we take 3 or 4 out there now, Gary, and dress the
Sure,
plate?
we certainly could.
Yeah. Okay, I'll leave it with you to take that. I can smell the pork hocks now.
Just take this one, it's nice and colored.
Yeah. Okay. Now what are we going to put on there
So
now?
then, believe it or not, I like to cook scallops in butter, but when I do, it burns. So,
Okay.
So this way here, I finish it with some brown butter, which is essentially just butter in a pan and melted and browned off for about, maybe 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay.
So just top it off with a little bit of butter. And then we try to decorate the plate as everyone would. I've used just some little mesclun mix, a few greens here.
Yeah.
And just a couple of little things, and helps make the plate look more presentable.
Feeling, yeah. So, Karl, are you going to try it or should I?
Well, I you know, if you
Well, I know.
insist.
Well, you got to try it, being that you're my mentor.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
I like the thought of the drawn butter going through it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Pea puree. Well, I think I've done a very good job in teaching you how to cook. This is exactly as I would have done it.
Thank you very much. So this is an appetizer. If you wanted to make it a main course, some broccoli rabe sautéed with a little bit of garlic, maybe some red peppers, and you've got a full main.
That pea puree with it is brilliant. It's really good. Thanks,
you.
Gary. It's great to have you on the show, and that's it for this edition of
One Chef.
One Critic.